Good afternoon and welcome to our Greenwich Apple Regional Training Centre webinar on hybrid learning with Showbie. So thank you for taking the time to join us today. We are one of the, I think, 70 plus Apple Regional Training Centres across the UK and Ireland. So Apple Regional Training Centres deliver courses to build the skills and confidence of educators in using Apple technology inside and outside the classroom. And we're a community who share best practice and inspire excellence through teaching with Apple technology. And today, this is me, Tim Lings. I'm Director of Digital Learning at Heronsgate Primary School, and I'm joined by Craig Thompson from Showbie. So maybe give us a wave, Craig. So we're just going to be spending a bit of time today thinking through Showbie, how it works, how it's useful in a school. I'm going to talk a little bit about our story at Heronsgate, and then Craig is going to do a little demo of Showbie. And so hopefully you'll find this session useful for how Showbie could be make a difference for you. So we've got a little poll to start with. We can have a go at doing this. So I wonder, and let me see if I can launch this poll. Here we go. It says, oh yes, here, click the right button. How familiar are you with Showbie? There's 5 options. So if you want to just see if you can answer them. Have you never heard of it before? Super familiar? Let us know. Seen a demo of Showbie before seems to be the popular answer, but well, hopefully after today's session you will know a bit more. So I'm having a bit of trouble with my windows. Amazing. So before we have a go at Showbie to find a bit more about it, I'm just going to tell you a bit of our story of how we've been using Showbie at Heronsgate over the last few years. So here's a couple of pictures of our school. We're across 2 sites. On the left is one in Thamesmead in southeast London, and down the road is our second site near Woolwich, also southeast London. And we are a 4-form primary school across 2 sites. We've got about 30% pupil premium, so quite a deprived area with lots of people speaking English as a second language. And we've been outstanding by Ofsted since 2008. And we are a technology-rich school. So we've got one-to-one devices across Key Stage 1 and 2 with devices for staff as well. And we use Showbie as our learning platform. And we found it has made a huge difference in how this works for us as a school. So why Showbie? Back in 2015, we had an increasing number of iPad sets across the school. And with this, there were all kinds of challenges of growth. So how do you get to see the learning the kids have been doing on their iPads? Perhaps they've been making videos or documents. How can we find it? You have to go and fish out the iPad and find the app they were using. How can you get stuff onto the iPads? I think we set up email addresses at one point as a method. How are you going to give feedback to that learning? And we were introduced to Showbie as a way that we could solve this problem. And it does a great job. So you have a teacher who sets up a class, and then the students join the class. Now, this teacher can distribute resources to the class. So maybe it's web links or documents or photos or videos or whatever you want. You can send it to your class on Showbie. The students can then do their work and then send it back to Showbie. And then the teacher can give some feedback on what's been learned. And that's, for us, is a great little workflow. It's very similar to an exercise book. And we found that it really worked for us. So the students would log into Showbie at the start of a lesson. They would perhaps pick up a project they'd started off with and then carry on. And then at the end of the lesson, they'd log out. And we found that quite quickly it got embedded into classroom practice, because for us, it really solved the problem we had of how to manage that digital learning. So here's a couple of comments from students at the time. So they liked the fact they could talk to their teacher, add those comments, and you know, it does add that personalization to that digital experience, that you can post those comments to your teacher and they can comment back. It's a lot easier to share work. It allows students to return to work. Now, it's really great that they had spotted this as a benefit. And I like this one from Alex. It's a good idea. It's actually a good idea because it saves our teachers time. Always something that's worth doing. And for us, Showbie allowed us to go one-to-one iPad. So to allow us to manage that learning that having a device for every child would entail. So for us, it became almost like the plumbing for the school, the way that learning gets passed around. And we could definitely really helped us. It gave that value to the iPad work. And as teachers were confident using it as well, it became a really great solution for us. And when Ofsted came to visit, again, they came in 2019, we're able to provide that evidence by opening up Showbie, and they can see what the kids have been doing. Then obviously came 2020, when everything went a little bit Pete Tom across the world, with school closures. And again, we were faced with this problem, in a sense, a very similar problem. How are we going to get this learning to our kids at home when they can't even come to school? How are they going to complete the tasks? They're going to be printing stuff off. And how can teachers assess their learning? And we found that Showbie was going to be the solution for us. So we made that switch to remote learning. So the kids all had their logins at home. They could log in with either the iPad app or on a website. And because our teachers and students were used to using Showbie, they were already confident with it, and we could make that switch really quickly. And we are also able to provide some devices if they need them. So this is an example of a piece of work where a digital worksheet's been sent home, and then the kid has actually done a little drawing and done some typing on it. And so it's just provided that digital space that worked really well for us. So every day we would post instructions for each subject with resources shared, and then children could use the annotation tools in Showbie to actually complete the tasks. And then of course teachers could then give that feedback and be part of that learning workflow to think about the learning to do the next day. So we found that 85% of children logged into Showbie in those first 2 weeks of that lockdown. In early 2021, we sent home nearly 300 devices to support that learning at home. And because it's getting used so much, we actually saw nearly 2/3 of a million things getting put into Showbie. So that's perhaps a comment or a post or a document or a video, or whatever. So for us, it's been a really useful tool. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight. Oh, there's more, sorry. What's the impact of Showbie been? Definitely seen an impact in reducing that workload for teachers. A lot less photocopying. You can send stuff to the kids' iPad so much easier. It does make teaching with the iPad really enjoyable, because you know that you can manage that workflow, gives that insight into the students learning on the devices. And also because with parent access, parents can see what's going on in school on the iPads as well, and definitely strengthens that link. And for our students, it provides a really easy way to access digital resources. You know, we've used it from year 1 to 6, and even year 1 children are able to navigate Showbie with confidence. And it's building that digital confidence, which is useful now, but also will definitely be something in the future. Students are developing oracy skills, so they're using speech a lot more, because the fact you can record voice notes, you can give place to speech, and that's developing that in our students. And also it provides a platform for that digital feedback, which of course helps children with their learning. So that's just a little bit from us as Heronsgate about how we find Showbie useful. And I'm now going to hand over to Craig and stop sharing my screen.
Thanks, Tim. And that's a great intro to how effective Showbie's been at Heronsgate. And hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Craig Thompson. I'm a learning specialist at Showbie. My background is as a primary school teacher and deputy head, local authority advisor, and various other things. Yeah, I now work at Showbie, just essentially helping schools make effective use of the platform, doing all of the kind of things that Tim's just been describing. If either during or after the event you want to get in touch with me, I'm craigt@showbie.com. You are very welcome to say hi after I've shown you a few bits and pieces. If you want to see a little bit more or you've got any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. Or if you want to, if you're new to Showbie and you want to have a trial of Showbie, then again, let us know. Just drop me an email at craigt@showbie.com. So what I just thought I'd do is give you a little bit of a Showbie background, and then dive into a class and show you around a little, and focus particularly on a couple of themes within, not within Showbie, but a couple of teaching learning themes, and use Showbie to illustrate those. So let me just pop through. I just wanted to some people have never heard of Showbie before, or certainly not heard of it enough to say they're familiar with it. I just wanted to give you a quick Showbie story just for a few seconds. So we've been established for about 10 years, established in Canada, headquartered in Canada, but with quite a significant UK and UK team and other teams around the world as well. So we've been going for quite a while, and schools like Tim's, I know, have been, like Heronsgate, have been with Showbie for most of that time. So we're well established. There are over 3 million Showbie users worldwide, and or across 188 countries. So sometimes it's a handful of schools, sometimes like in the UK, it's lots of schools. And the platform can function within with 18 languages. Some of you might be familiar with Socrative. For quizzing, I'll touch on Socrative briefly in today's session, but essentially Showbie now owns Socrative, or have done for the last 4 years. So Socrative is for quizzing, and Socrative integrates really nicely into Showbie, or it can be used separately, but integrates really nicely into Showbie in a way that lets you easily do quick learning checks, assessments, retrieval practice. We'll come to that in a little while. And then we also partner with other organizations. So one of the tools that we partner with significantly is Explain Everything for whiteboarding, and creating tutorial videos and all sorts of other things. You may be familiar with Explain Everything already. So we don't own Explain Everything, but we do partner, and that gives what we call the Showbie Complete package, which we'll come to in just a minute. You've seen already Tim's sort of introduction into how Showbie and the Showbie tools are used at Heronsgate, and I often find this when I go and support schools that are great Showbie users, that I maybe have a slide like this that talks about hybrid learning. It's really redundant. I should stop using it, because actually what you've seen in Tim's introduction, and if you go to any other school that's using Showbie, is really great examples of hybrid learning. And by that I mean where schools are making critical decisions between when to use technology, when not to use technology, how technology best integrates with the learning to get the best impact for the children, which of course is not what we saw during the pandemic to start with. What we saw was schools being forced to use technology and to teach remotely, even if it wasn't necessarily the best thing for the children at the time. So Showbie was great as a tool within that situation, but actually it's even more impactful when there are conscious choices being made of, hey, when do we use the tech, when don't we, and when to have the most impact. Showbie is designed to just work effectively whatever your teaching and learning model is. So I work with schools who have a very sort of direct instruction approach to teaching and learning. I work with others who have a much more sort of discovery-led approach to teaching and learning. The platform's there for you to use and manipulate and shape to work with however your school works, because it is specifically designed for teaching and learning. So Showbie isn't trying to be a huge LMS or a huge, we're not trying to cover everything that maybe other platforms you use do. We're specifically focused on effective teaching and learning, effective communication with children, and having the flexibility and ease of use to do that. So I've mentioned already that we at Showbie are Showbie and Socrative, but we also partner heavily with Explain Everything. And so you can, if you are interested in starting to use Showbie, you can subscribe to any of those. But if you want the whole bundle, then we call that Showbie Complete. So if you hear me talk about Showbie Complete, that's what I mean. I'm not going to go and show you everything in Showbie today. I'm going to pick a handful of features to really focus in on, and I'll explain the themes for that in just a moment. So there will definitely be things that you can do in Showbie that I'm not going to cover today. But Showbie at its heart is trying to do the three things that Tim's already said. That how do you get stuff out to the kids? How do you distribute resources, distribute content, templates, work those things? How do you get stuff back from the kids? How do you get them both accessing that content and submitting their own content? And in all the wide variety of ways that iPads in particular allow you to do, to really cash in on that creativity that children have. And how do you get feedback? How do you have that meaningful conversation around feedback? And that's exactly where Showbie is placed. So a couple of highlights really that we hear as like most loved features, if you like. So one is Showbie will handle any file format, and I really do mean that. So if you're uploading, and I'll demonstrate this here, but if you're uploading keynotes or pages or PDFs or photos or PowerPoints or anything else into Showbie, it can take all of that. Showbie also natively handles ebooks. So if you create ebooks in Pages, for example, you can upload those to Showbie and view them within the platform without having to download them first. And also even handles things like USDZ, so augmented reality files. You might export out of Reality Composer or Tinkercad or something like that into Showbie and access those as augmented reality files. So a really wide variety of file formats. It will work on any platform. It's really optimized for iPad. I don't mind saying that it's, you know, it works really, really effectively on iPads. It works really well on other devices too, but some of the iOS integrations are really helpful. So being able to share to and from any apps, being able to tap into the accessibility features such as speak selection and dictation, all of that is integrated well with Showbie. And various other things that you can see here that we'll come to as we go through. So I'm going to just focus just for 20 minutes or so on these three areas. So we're going to have a look at modeling and scaffolding and how that looks in terms of hybrid learning in Showbie, purposeful, meaningful feedback, and also accessible feedback. So pupils can receive that feedback and can act on it in a timely way, but also in a way where, you know, they're not reading through half a page of feedback and then not doing anything with it. They're able to actually access it and respond. And then touch briefly on retrieval practice and assessment, particularly with the link to Socrative. I just thought we were sharing that. If you would like to, either live on the call or if you're watching this afterwards, you are very welcome to create a student account and join my student class. So student accounts can be created for free in Showbie. Have as many of those as you like. So if you would like to do that, I'm just going to play a little video of how to create a student account, either in the app or in the browser. So let me just run that through now. And if you would like to do that, then you are very welcome. I'll leave my class open after this event. And so if you want to go in there and explore the materials and things that I've used, you're very welcome to. So here's just a little video on how to create. So just tap on the sign up and say I'm a student. The class code for this is 779N4. Sign up with a username. You'll need a first name and last name. They can be anything. Your username needs to be unique, so maybe add the letters of your school afterwards or something like that. I've used capitals here, but it's not case sensitive. And then password can be anything. You don't need an email address. So to sign up as a student, you don't need an email address. You're welcome to add one, but you don't need to. And then when you sign up, you should join up to my Greenwich RTC class, which has just got a handful of resources in that we'll use over the next few minutes to illustrate some points. So let me just run through that again. So sign up for free, tap on I'm a student, class code 779N4. That's just for this class, obviously. Join class, sign up with username, first name, last name, username, and password, and then just sign up. That should pretty much put you into my class. And then I'm just going to go in and I'm going to flit a little bit. I hope that's okay. I'm just going to show you the structure of Showbie and how it works. And then I'm going to flit around a little bit between assignments and activities in Showbie and just try to illustrate some of those points around modeling and scaffolding, targeted, meaningful feedback, and purposeful feedback, and retrieval practice and assessment. So just a quick, whistle stop tour. First of all, this is how Showbie looks. This is how it's organized. So down the left-hand side here, you have all of your classes. There's no limit in the pro version to how many classes you can have. So I could pop into a class. So I'm going to just pop into my Greenwich RTC class here, and you'll see that I've got folders. Creating classes and folders is dead easy. You just go to the spanner up at the top here. Let me just get this out of the way. Go to the spanner up at the top here. Just tap on the spanner and new class. It's as easy as that to create classes in Showbie. If you're creating them en masse, then we have a team at Showbie who could help you to do that in the background. Same for creating folders. Pop into my Greenwich RTC class, tap on the spanner, and again, I can create folders in there, color code those. Use emojis. So emojis in folders is really helpful to give visual cues as to which folder is which, especially for younger children. And then within folders, I can start to create assignments. So I just tap on the spanner again, tap new assignment. I'm just going to call this one test and save. I could schedule my assignments to go live a particular date, to lock at a particular time, all of those things. My class has already got some students in, but if not, you would get your students to join using the class code. Or again, we can help set that up in the background. Every assignment you have gets this shared item space. So this is really crucial. So the shared item space is the way in which you distribute content in the way that Tim was talking about earlier. So if I want to distribute something like a page of squared paper, I can just go to create document here, tap on the squared paper, say I want medium-sized squares, 2 pages, create, and anything I put in this space will get passed out to every child will get a copy. It might be that I want to work on that document first before the children start working on it, so I'm just going to tap into that. I can now use the annotation tools, which I'll come back to in a minute, to create content on that page in order to distribute maybe a worked example or something out to the children. It's not the only way you can add content. So if I just go back to that ad again, maybe I want to just import a photo from my library here. So I'm just going to bring something in to Showbie. There are some editing options there, but I'm just going to tap done. And again, every student, every pupil will get a copy of that. And when I said earlier that I could bring in lots of things, I mean all sorts of things. If I just go back a couple of steps into this space here, you'll see here that I've got images, I've got PDFs, I've got slides, I've got PowerPoints, I've got keynotes, I've got videos, USDZ, augmented reality files, ebooks, even things like GarageBand projects. So if you're iPad users, you might well have uploaded a GarageBand song to a platform, you know, a finished exported GarageBand song, which is great. But sometimes you want to create part of a project, distribute that out to the children, and then get them to download it to carry on working on it. And you can do that quite easily in Showbie. So just upload the project, open it up. It won't give you a preview as a project file, but it will tell you it's a GarageBand project. And as soon as you tap to share it, I can share that and share it back to GarageBand. That will open up GarageBand and I can start working within that. So we're going to talk in a minute about modeling and scaffolding, and that's one of the ways, you know, we're going to focus on things like written work and maths work and such like, but actually modeling and scaffolding extends across all subjects, doesn't it? So if I want to scaffold an activity in GarageBand, for example, Showbie allows me to do that. Just upload that project file and export it back out into GarageBand. Same for things like Scratch projects and that kind of thing. You might want to upload part of a project and then export it into the original software. GarageBand Showbie always keeps the original file. So if you upload a keynote, you can annotate it, work on it, do things within Showbie, which I'll show you in a second. But you can always download the original back to Keynote if you want to access the transitions or do more work on it in Keynote itself. So what does that mean in terms of what we've got available to us, starting with modeling and scaffolding? Well, the first thing it means is that you don't need to get complicated with this. So for example, my use of Showbie for modeling and scaffolding might simply be, I'm going to go add. I'm going to add by creating a document. That document's going to be a blank sheet of paper. I'm going to create it. Every child's going to get a copy. So now every child's got a blank document in their Showbie assignment. However, I don't want them to have a blank document. I want to stand at the front of my class. I want to model an idea or model something on the board, and I want them to get my modeled example in their area. That's fine. When you've distributed a document in Showbie, you can keep adding to it as a teacher. And even though the children have got their own photocopy, if you like, any changes you make will carry on going out. So if I just tap on my document here, I can do all the things you'd expect to be able to do when you're whiteboarding. I can draw, I can highlight. I've got an eraser, as you'd expect. And then I can also, where things start to get really more exciting, is I can add voice notes and text notes. So I can add text notes like this, which I can then move around anywhere on the page. So I can pick those up, move them around, shrink them down. You imagine being able to add those text notes on, say, a long piece of writing where you're maybe giving feedback or you're structuring instructions for children into small chunks so they can easily follow what it is they need to do. I'll give you some examples of that in a minute. I can add voice notes in, so I can just tap record. These can be up to 30 minutes long. You're not going to use 30 minutes in multiple voice notes within a document, probably, but they are there for you to use. I'm just going to tap save. And again, I can pick that up, move that around. So what I'm trying to show you here is your scaffolding might just be, hey, I need a blank sheet of paper that I'm going to do stuff on. Of course, you might instead want to scaffold on top of something that's already already structured, and you might want children to add their content onto that as well. So let's just take something like modeling grid multiplication. I've added some squared paper, I've added an example. The children are going to complete all of these, you know, question 2, 3, 4, and so on. There are two pages of this. So the kids are going to do that bit, but I want to model it first. So in front of the class, I'm going to sit here. I'm just going to grab my pen. I'm not going to write in purple. And I'm just going to go, you know, and fill this in. I'm going to try and not make any mistakes here, but I can't guarantee it. And I'm going to go on, and I'm going to just model this here. That change is going to cascade out to all the kids. So they're all going to get your worked example. Anything they add just comes to you. Anything you add goes to everybody. And tap done. And so without having to do much by way of, you know, going out to another tool or uploading lots of things, I literally am just modeling on squared paper. Maybe I'm then also uploading something like this, you know, something that I've downloaded from somewhere. In this case, I'm going to fill that in. So here I've just uploaded the PDF. But sometimes it's as simple as, hey, I just need a sheet of squared paper, plain paper, musical stave to model. Of course, you've got the absolute advantage in terms of hybrid learning that content is going to permanently stay there. So if a child halfway through a lesson just can't work out what they're meant to be doing, they can go to your worked example, they can have a look at that, they can go over what it is you did, and maybe it's no longer up on the board, or keeping looking up and down at the board is difficult for some pupils. You've got that, and you've also got that when the children go home. So assuming they're logging into Showbie at home, either on a school device or just on a phone or Kindle or whatever they're using at home, then they've got that. They can share that with their parents. They can maybe watch a little how-to video you might have made. We'll talk about that in a moment. But let's talk about that now. So you can create tutorial videos within Showbie itself, or you can create them maybe on your iPad using screen record and upload them. It's totally up to you. If you want to create tutorial videos within Showbie itself, let me just pull up something else that I've uploaded. So I've just created a food web. I can, of course, model on here, just like I was showing you. I can draw, I can highlight, I can do all of those things. But before I do that, I'm just going to tap the add button here, and I'm going to hit, I know you can't see it because of the way I'm projecting my screen, but if you were to do this on yours, I'll show you screenshots of this in a minute. One of the options would be screen recording. So let me just show you this in a series of screenshots instead. So we can screen record within Showbie anything that you're doing in Showbie. So all you need to do is tap on the screen record. You can see that in the add menu there. You can screen record with or without your face in the shot. So if you want to make that personal connection of having that screen recording with your imaging, or maybe something else that you've got the camera looking at. It doesn't need to be your image, or maybe screen recording something in Showbie whilst also pointing your camera at some maths equipment or something like that. You can get that, and you can move that around the screen. You can choose whether to use your voice or not. I'm sure these are all things you're used to in terms of screen recording. And then when you tap and save your screen recording, you can then trim it down and change the quality if it's, you want it to upload a bit faster. And that will automatically upload into the space in Showbie wherever you were when you started screen recording. So into the assignment that you're using. So in terms of scaffolding, modeling and scaffolding things for children, you've got the option there to go, hey, I am going to record this food web idea. I'm going to draw my arrows. I'm going to talk whilst I'm doing that. I might add other text boxes and annotations on, but the whole thing I'm going to screen record, save that screen record into the assignment, and they can go and watch that anytime. I think there are, in my experience, in my own classrooms, there are so many examples where when children want to see the worked example, they look up at the board, and what's on the board is the finished worked example. And for those who are really struggling, that doesn't remind them how you got there. So think of something like long multiplication or chunking division or something like that. It's great, they can look up and see the finished example. But if you don't know how you got from A to B, that's no use. And having regular, constant access to those little video tutorials and things, we know that, especially, the pandemic has really highlighted that. That is so powerful. So it might be that you're going to record in that way. Of course, we're talking about iPads here. So you've always got the option on your iPad to pull down your control center, to hit screen record, to record something that maybe isn't in Showbie and upload it to Showbie so that you can share that with pupils. So again, I've got another little example for you there of just a Scratch computing example. So again, I want the children to do something here. So what I've done is just created an algorithm in Scratch. I've distributed that out to all the children. If you've joined the class, then feel free to pop in here and have a play around with this. I'm just going to open up and I just want them to deconstruct my algorithm. I'm just going to ask them to go, hey, what's going to happen when I press the green flag on this program? And I want them to pull it apart. I want them to really start to annotate with voice notes or text notes or any of those other tools that we've got up here. So I want them to go, I'm just going to add here and say, I think this is going to draw a pentagon. So, and they can start to move that around, layer it on top of the different things that they're annotating, use highlighter pens, use a whole range of tools. I'm doing this as the teacher on the master copy, so actually any change I do like this, all the kids are going to get. But what the children would be doing is just seeing their own little space here. They'd be going into their own little space here and just adding to their copy of that file. Now, I've taught like this, I've taught computing like this for many years to lots of children. And I know that when I start asking children to deconstruct programs and algorithms in this way, some of them find it really easy. Some of them don't have a clue where to start. Some of them would need to see the program running to get a visual representation and try and work out which bits are doing which. So in that case, what I would probably do is have a video queued up and ready to go. So I perhaps go to Scratch, I press the green flag, I'd record using the screen recorder on the iPad, what's going to happen next, and then upload that into Showbie, maybe not to all pupils, maybe just to some. So let's just do that. Let's because what I'm trying not to do here is over scaffold. So I want some children to have an extra bit of scaffolding to show them how, to give them an idea of what's going to happen here when we press play. So I've recorded my video already because I can't do it on a call. So I'm just going to pop into my photo library. I'm going to go into the right folder here, and I'm just going to upload this 16-second video into Showbie. So this is just going to be a video showing what happens when I press the green flag. Just going to tap done. And I'm uploading that into Showbie, which will take a few seconds. Now, when we're thinking about how we're using that to scaffold learning for children, I might not all children will need that. So at the moment, I've shared that movie with everyone. I don't want to share it with everyone. So what you might be used to doing if you're a school using iPads is airdropping that out to some children. And of course, that's a really powerful tool in itself. Popping it into a platform like Showbie just means that they've got constant access to it and it's all kept together in one place. So I don't want this to be shared with everyone. I want it to be shared with 3 children who are really struggling, or are, they're beyond stuck. They're feeling quite helpless in solving this problem. So I'm just going to go to that everyone space there. I could have done this in advance, by the way, before uploading it. And I'm going to say, actually, I don't want everyone to have that. In fact, actually, maybe I don't want anyone to have that. So I've just chosen select none, and I'll release it to some children as I go along. If they need it, I'll let them have it. But if not, I'm not going to over scaffold it for them. In this case, I'm going to say, I know Tim Lings needs it. Sorry, Tim. I know, because Tim Lings absolutely does not need it. I know that these children are struggling a little. So I'm just going to release that to those 5 students. And so you can see that 5 students have now got that video. And if I want to, I can release it to more students or remove it from them if they no longer have it. So I have a bit of a bugbear about when we over scaffold the learning process for children, and sometimes with tech, because it's so easy to distribute stuff out to all children. Sometimes we do distribute stuff out to all children, where if it was paper-based in class, we maybe would have had a handful of photocopies ready to share just with those children who needed it. So we can be really
Craig,
flexible. Yeah,
we
Tim.
found this invaluable during lockdown, because you could then so easily differentiate the resources for that remote learning. And what's really nice as well is that you can remove children from some items. So if they're getting a different activity, they then don't see what the other kids get. So they don't kind of even feel like, oh, I'm getting something different. They just, this is all I've been given. But
Yeah,
obviously, it's also useful in class.
Yeah, and yet keep everybody in the same assignment. So
Yeah.
so back in the day, I remember it well. We used to, in order to clearly differentiate and keep track of who was doing what, we used to photocopy worksheets onto 3 different colors of paper. We used to tell children, you need the blue one, you need the yellow one, you need the green one, so that they could see. And then it's really obvious in class as well to each other, though, who's getting which differentiated work, which isn't always, which often isn't what you want. But it was the only way we could easily track who was doing what, who was getting what, was to have that sort of really visual representation and to help them get organized. With tech, we can just ditch all of that. Just as Tim said, we can say, actually, you know, not just around scaffolding, but I want to share this piece of work with this group of children and this piece of work with this group of children. It will all appear in the assignment, but only certain children will get that. So who did I share that with? Well, I didn't share it with Bethel. So Beth can't see it here at all. But if I go down to Tim's account, then Tim has my little video. So this is just around the scaffolding, the modelling and scaffolding, you know, modelling and making it readily available to all children at all times, modelling it in a way where you can see partway through your lesson that the children are getting stuck, and even on something you've already distributed, you can add something as a teacher and they will get your additional worked example, your additional bit of modelling. Scaffolding an activity with a little video, a tutorial. You know, maybe what I'm going to do for some children is I'm going to upload this thing, but I'm going to start annotating it myself. I'm going to give them some clues and just scaffold that a little bit more for some children, and distribute 2 documents, one with my heavy scaffolding, one with less. And then that goes as well for things like I've worked recently with an SEND teacher working with EAL children, and actually saying, actually the scaffolding we need to do here goes as far as giving those children their own class of 3, 4, 5 children who just need some additional resources and support. And what that teacher's doing is just pushing EAL support resources into a separate class, almost just like a read-only reference area that just those 5 or 6 children have got access to. So a class doesn't have to be a class. A class can be a group of children or a particular space that's needed. Okay, I also said that we'd have a little chat about feedback. I hope that's still all right. We've still got time. So we said talk about modelling and scaffolding, talk about targeted feedback. Let me just pop into one of my favourite assignments to play around with and demonstrate, which is this idea that, you know, when you give children a stimulus for writing, for years we've said they need to write their ideas before they start writing, which for some children is dead easy and for others is impossible. By the time they've got their ideas down and started getting their ideas down, they've forgotten half their ideas, and actually they failed at the first hurdle, they've fallen at the first hurdle. And I remember doing quite a long writing project with the school where, you know, we had a whole bunch of year 3 and 4 children who just didn't see themselves as writers, because even at the first hurdle of let's get your ideas down, they were struggling to write, let alone do the extended piece of writing. So voice notes just comes into its own there. I can open up something like this. But if you've seen this castle before, this is one of the castles that the Disney castle is based on, this series of castles in Germany. So this is the Neuschwanstein castle. And, you know, what's really powerful is either as a class, getting everybody's ideas and the teacher adding these on, or individual children just going, hey, you know, I want to record an idea. I'm going to talk about something like the vast space beyond the castle where I can see hills and lakes. I'm going to save that. And I'm going to put my little voice note down here with the hills and lakes, and then maybe record 3, 4, 5, 6, as many as I like. This isn't about assessment yet. I just want to show you the assignment because I quite like it. The other great thing is that we can just link to things like URLs and things, you know, online resources and stuff. So one of my favorite things to do in here is to link to Google Earth scene. So in this case, great, we can open the photo and they can look at that. But hey, we've got really powerful tech here. So why not ping a link out to that same location in Google Earth? We can really then start to explore it. We can start to look around. We can start to see much more. And then our ideas can really grow. And when we've got all our ideas, we've had a chat with our friends, we know what we're doing with that, we can go back into Showbie, open the photograph, and just add our ideas onto the still image. So we, there's such a wealth of content out there. Showbie sometimes is about just getting that content to the kids. And it's the same for things like I was working with a school yesterday on stuff around contrasting localities and also rivers, linking out to Apple Maps, certainly where it's mapped in 3D. They were comparing places like Glasgow with places elsewhere in the world, and able to go to those 3D mapped locations just by sharing a location from Apple Maps into Showbie. When it then comes to building up your assignments, what we've got here is a child going, okay, so I've done my ideas, and I've got my ideas down, and I know what I'm going to, all right, there's only 2 on the page, but I've got my ideas down, I know what I'm going to say, I've done my thinking. And then that child either uploading something from Pages or Keynote with all of their writing on, or just using a blank sheet of paper with a text box in Showbie to do their extended piece of writing. Or possibly, I'm just going to clear a bit of space here so that I can show you. We're not suggesting for a minute that building writing stamina itself isn't important. So why not just tap scan? That's built into iOS, so it's integrated into Showbie. I can tap scan. I can just scan my page of writing. That will stand that up really nicely. You just save that. That will stand that up really well so that you can see at a glance that piece of work. And on that work, we can highlight, and that's just using the built-in scanner within the iPad. So this is very much an iPad, an iOS thing. And so they can still do their handwritten work or maths or whatever it is and upload that really easily into Showbie. From a feedback point of view, I'm immediately then able to go and as teacher, start to work on that. So as teacher, I can go into JSpace. I've done all of this as the teacher. I would have been logging in as the child, but it's a bit too complicated on a demo to keep logging in and out. So I can start to highlight. I can start to pull out those features that I've asked them to focus on, be that that imagery or language. We've got things like the sky, touching the clouds with their elegant peaks and all of those things. I can start to see that. I can start to, and the children can start to add some really targeted feedback. So I'm going to pop it in here and just say, I love the use of your language here, talking about the leader and their loyal, the trees being their loyal servants, and save. And I'm going to pop that on the page exactly where it needs to be so that that feedback is exactly where it should be. Children can hide those away if it's too, there's too much, too cluttered. They can just toggle my feedback off whilst they continue working on their document. And if I want to give a child a next step or something, then equally I could pop that there in text notes and voice notes. In fact, I've been working on some schools on their marking and feedback policy, where we've used emojis just to say whether, say you're doing 3 stars and a wish or something like that. We can equally just decide what emojis are going to mean what. So here we're going to use a gold star to say well done, and maybe a magic wand to say what my wish is, and then the children have a really visual cue to say, hey, here's your feedback. This is exactly what you need to do. You can even go a step further. You could say, actually, I'm going to give feedback on this verbally as a video recording. So you can't do it on a whilst I'm displayed in the way that I am remotely, but hit screen recording, then go into their work, and annotate whilst talking over the top of that, and save that little video so they get video feedback on their work. All just within the platform. And of course, the children can do the same. If you want them to talk through their work, highlighting and explaining to you why they did certain things and why they chose to write in a certain way or how they solved a particular maths problem, then they are quite free to go add screen recording open the piece of work, working it whilst talking, record their voice, and then you can watch a little video of them presenting their thinking. So we can give feedback on the document. We can give feedback by just leaving a comment. So the teacher can come into Jay's space here and just pop a little, I'm not going to write anything meaningful here, pop a little comment and just post that, and that's for each individual child. Or if you're a school that, for example, focuses on whole class feedback and maybe then tops that up with individual feedback, I can give whole class feedback really easily. I'm just going to go to shared items here. I am going to decide whether my whole class feedback is for everyone or not, or maybe it's pockets of feedback for different children. I'm actually going to give some whole class verbal feedback. I'm just going to go to add voice note. That can be up to 30 minutes long again. So I'm going to record my verbal class feedback here. I'm going to summarize those key points and post that, and then that will go out to every child. And I just want to make sure that that stays at the top so that they've constantly got reference to it. So I'm just going to swipe across and pin that to the top of that assignment. What I'm saying here is that you know, if you look at things like the Education Endowment Foundation report, it talks about verbal feedback and it talks about written feedback, and it talks about them as two separate things. So when you start introducing the use of technology, they don't necessarily need to be two separate things. Verbal feedback can also be recorded feedback, and it can be feedback that children can go back to time and time again. It can be feedback that all of the children get at once, but can keep referencing. It can be very personalized feedback that's dropped exactly on a page where it needs to be in a way that's accessible to the child. Your feedback might also be that you're grading something or giving a summative comment or grade to something. And we can do that in Showbie too, just by tapping on the little, I need to go to a child space first, opening up a document, tapping on the little tick box, and I can start to grade that. But I mean, I'm thinking really with the primary school hat on here. I'm not often going to be grading things with a numerical score, but I might grade things with emojis. So there's nothing stopping me going, hey, I'm going to go into my, sorry, my echo dot going off. I'm going to go into my emoji keyboard here and give this one a thumbs up or a round of applause or a colored square or whatever it is, and save that. And then the child will see that along with any comments, and that will also go into an overview that you can see everybody's grades and things. So a grade doesn't have to be a grade. And certainly several schools that I work with use an emoji system or something to give meaningful feedback that's instantly recognizable to their pupils. There are so many other ways in which we can use technology to give feedback that's targeted, that's purposeful, that's accessible, that is, you know, not facing children with what's really difficult sometimes, which is reading, you know, 2 or 3 paragraphs of feedback or 2 or 3 bits of feedback where they can't access it, let alone act on it. And technology can help incredibly with that, and is especially so it's powerful for all children, but it's especially powerful for some children, isn't it? You might also, I had lots of conversations with people recently about things like using rubrics and that kind of thing, or success criteria lists and all of those things. So I just wanted to show one very quick example where, if I can find the right place, where you might have a situation where you've uploaded into a space a list of success criteria or a rubric or something. One nice feature of Showbie on iPad is that you can split screen, of course. Well, you can split screen on iPad anyway, but in Showbie you can split screen Showbie with Showbie really easily. So I'm going to pick up my success criteria list. I'm just using my finger here to lift it off the page. If you've used split screen on iPad, you'll be familiar with this. I'm just going to give it its own space on the side here, and at the same time, I'm going to open up my work. So this might be me as a child, or it might be the teacher in order to give me some feedback. I'm going to go through and tick off, highlight what I've done successfully, highlight what I need to do next within that space. And then I'm just going to move that across and say done. And that's going to save that feedback into that child space and tap done on the piece of work. that split screen functionality is so crucial when it comes to feedback, especially if you've got your list of success criteria and you want to see the two things side by side. It's also great for children comparing their work with somebody else's work and all of those things. There's a whole host of other things I could show you. I'm very aware of time, and I said I'd be about 20 minutes, and I've been about 35 already. I was just going to touch very briefly on retrieval practice and quizzing, because it's something a lot of people don't know about Showbie and the way it integrates with Socrative. I would work with lots of schools who've used Socrative for years and have used Showbie for years, but have never integrated the two. And I just thought I would just highlight just very briefly how easy it is to do that. So I can run quizzes for retrieval practice. I can run quick learning checks. I can run end of module quizzes. I can run all sorts of quizzes and collate that data into Showbie. I've always been able to do it in Socrative itself. So if you're not familiar with Socrative, I won't go into loads of details on this call, on this session, but I can create and publish quizzes. I can do quick voting panel activities, ask children a quick verbal true false question and get them to vote to get a measure of whether my class have got the idea or not. And I can create and I can launch quizzes in here. And when I do launch quizzes in here, I can see the results of that quiz. So I can go and look at reports and I can see at a glance, color-coded results, who did what happened, how well they answered the questions. This one's all multiple choice, but it might be a written answer or a true false question or something like that. So I can see all sorts of detail I can export that I'm not particularly I'm gonna go into now. There's loads I could show you in there. Really, in case you've already got these tools, what I wanted to show you all is that you can integrate the two together. So here, I'm just gonna go into maths. I've got a quiz time assignment here, although I'd probably add the quiz with the work that they were quizzing about rather than have a separate assignment. I'm going to go to my add button and I'm going to add quiz. And I'm going to add my quiz from Socrative. I already connected my Socrative room. I'm going to go and find this quiz on translations. I'm going to say I want instant feedback. I want them to know straight away if they've got the question right or wrong. I am going to shuffle the questions and answers so they can't cheat. And I'm going to tap start. And that's the quiz launched in Showbie. So then as a teacher, I can open that and I can see live data coming through. As students, they can open that and they can complete the quiz without having to go to any other apps, just to keep it nice and simple. In fact, let me just show you a quick couple of videos of how this works. So I can see live data coming in. This is what the teacher sees. So as the children complete the quiz, you just get that live data coming through, just sort of color coded, so you can instantly see if you've got any misconceptions going on. You can stop your class. You can work on those misconceptions if it's an issue. And so that's really crucial because we're using technology there. Just forget what it is for a minute. We're using technology there to go, hang on, not just a hands up, not just to tell me if you're struggling. We can see instantly, as long as the questions are designed well, and that's really crucial. You know, the questions have got to be tested in the thing that you're trying to test. We can which is a really obvious thing to say, but is not always the case, is an instant readout of how are my class getting on. And then using that tech, you can start to respond and say, even I'm going to stop the quiz here because I can see that we've got a problem with question number 4, or in this case, you know, Tom is struggling a little bit with the questions that are going on here. In fact, he's getting a lot of A's right, and I'm starting to wonder if he's just guessing. So I get that data through, and then in Showbie, we can send those scores into their assignment. And we can send a report of how they did into their assignment. And then with those same tools that I was showing you earlier, we can start to layer stuff onto there to see if they got misconceptions, where have they misunderstood stuff? Does the teacher need to give some additional feedback, some prompts, some nudges back to the whole modeling and scaffolding conversation? Or does the child need to reflect and go, do you know what, I didn't get this at the time, but I now do. So I'm going to add something to this report, or I'm going to upload another piece of work that shows that I maybe didn't get it at the time, but I do get it now. I guess what I'm talking about in quite a roundabout way is you've got all of these tools. And of course, I'm I'm illustrating these using Showbie on iPad. I'm sure there are other tools you've got as well where you're maybe already using, where that hybrid learning approach really is about making sure you've got the right tool in place at the right time for the right job. And I'm hopefully showing you a selection of tools here that can really help with that. There's loads of other stuff I haven't talked about, parental engagement and having different stakeholders mixed together in groups and having an overview of what the children have done, so you can easily track who's done what and whether they've handed it in and all of those things. Reading records, all sorts of things, video calls in Showbie, lots and lots of stuff. But I hope with what I've covered, I've just given you an idea of how you might be using Showbie in terms of hybrid learning, and also how, whatever you're using, how you might use some of those tools to just extend your offer for children in terms of supporting in those areas that we've discussed this afternoon. Tim, I think I've probably said enough for one day, and I will hand back to you.
Amazing. I feel like I just want to give you a round of applause. There's one, I'm going to use an emoji. There's one particular thing. I'm going to show me that split screen, like how to do the root, like success criteria and see the piece of work at the same time. It's like, of course. So brilliant. Thank you. I'm just going to go back to my slides to just round off this session. Here we go. It's just to literally say thank you on my slide. Here we go. Look, close. So that's all for today. Thank you for coming. That's actually the final Greenwich RTC webinar for this academic year. I know we can all. So then we are busy plotting what form and shape we will take from September. So keep your eyes peeled. Do sign up for our mailing list, and you will find out that way. But thank you again for joining us, Craig. Thank you for joining us, everyone else who's on the call. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching. So we'll see you next time. So thank you very much, everyone.